G'day YouTubers, and welcome to episode 7 of the East of Moreton series. I had planned to put up this video as finishing off the dashboard build in my boat, but I've been extremely time poor this week and I haven't been able to do very much on the dashboard. I haven't been able to do very much of anything for myself. So I'm putting up a few marks on the East of Moreton series. I don't know how many marks I'll have time to cover. I'll cover as many as I can. Not sure how long the video is going to be even. It's just going to be whatever time I've got to put it together, and we'll come back to the ones I miss out later on. These are the marks I've got to cover in this video and probably the next one or two, depending on how much time I have to put the videos together. So we'll start at the southern end of it and work our way up, see how far we get. I've got a plan for keeping track of the videos now anyway. In the program I use to record the marks, what I'm doing is cutting out a piece of sea area with all the marks in it, saving that in a separate file, and then as I work through those marks I'm going to delete them out of the file. That way I'll know what I've done and what I haven't done. So no more uncertainty in that area. Let's get on with looking at these marks. I'll just draw your attention to the green zones in this area. Some of the marks I'm going to be mentioning are now in green zones. They weren't back in the day, but they are now. I'll flag them as we come to them, and I won't spend much time on them because, as Mark said, pretty useless these days. But the structure down there is quite interesting if you ever want to just scan over it with your sounder. Make sure you got your rods stowed so that it's clear you're not fishing in the area. But if you want to improve your sounder skills, scanning over some structure that you know is there is quite useful at times. I recorded these first two marks on the same day in April, just over a year ago. At a guess, I'd say I recorded one on each of the two sounders I have, one on the Raymarine, one on the Hummingbird, but for some reason I've only got a screenshot from the Hummingbird. I'm not sure why I did that. Nevertheless, it does show that there's some structure down there, a bit of rough ground. Nothing spectacular, but just enough to be holding some fish. And the reason I took this mark without the fish was that I'm pretty sure I fished this area in the past, at least very close to it, and there is some rough ground down there, so I just took the mark to show that it's worth going and having a bit of a scan around, see if you can find any fish on the day. If not, keep going. Now this mark is where the lower went down. As with all submerged wreck, or at least the majority of submerged wreck marks, it's approximate. The latitude and longitude were recorded when the ship went down. It may not be, or probably is not, where it's sitting on the bottom. Because even if it went down at those exact latitude and longitude, the currents can move the ship significantly in the time it takes for it to leave the surface and hit the bottom. I've been around this area a bit with a sounder over the years, but I haven't seen any sign of it. I haven't been looking specifically for it. But nevertheless, there's the mark. You know there's a ship down there somewhere, a wreck, and if you do find it, there's bound to be fish on it. So, not saying you should go and look for it, but keep your eye open if you're in that general area, in case you do see it on the sounder. And just a tiny little bit of history on this before we move on. The lower was a wooden cutter. It was destroyed by fire on 16th of June 1975. So being a wooden cutter, being destroyed by fire, I sort of question how much should be left down on the bottom. But as I say, keep your eye open while you're out there. There's lots of older boats that there is pieces left of, although I'd have to say some of them, what's left, a diver would find it, but yeah, you're probably not going to realise what it is on a sounder. But lower might be different. There might be a fair bit of the keel left. Who knows? We'll find out one day when someone finds it and posts some pictures of their sounder shots. Now this is another wreck, this time the Sharon E. Again, been in the area, haven't seen it. The mark is probably where the ship was recorded as having gone down. That may be significantly different to where it actually went down, and of course the current's going to move it as it goes down, so another one where you should keep your eye out in case you do see something on the bottom, but not something I'd recommend going and spending hours and hours looking for. Now this one I've recorded as just a hill, which means it's not steep and sharp enough to be a pinnacle, but it is a rise in the bottom, probably with a little bit of rough ground over it, and something that I thought was worth having another look at to see if the fish do hang around it. Because I haven't got a screenshot of it, I'd say there was no fish on it on the day I recorded it. So it's just a mark to go back, have a look around. If you make a few visits to it and doesn't show up anything, then scratch it off. It's not somewhere you go and specifically target, say I'm going to this mark and going to try some fishing there, but if you're going past it, have a look, see if the fish are there, that sort of thing. And this is another wreck. This time it's a Tempest, and again, I haven't seen the wreck on the bottom on the sounder. It's probably a general area mark where the wreck's somewhere in this general area. Can't say I've gone and actually had a look at this particular mark. I record any wreck mark I come across on the chance that if I'm in the area I might go and have a look at it, but usually find something to fish on before I get to these marks, so I haven't looked at this one. Same thing applies as to all the other marks, so it's probably in the general area. If you're going past, keep your eye on the sounder, but I wouldn't spend a lot of time looking for it. This one's off the internet, and whoever put it there has called it a peak at Square Patch. Not sure I'd agree with the naming of that, but nevertheless there's the mark. Have a look. Not at Square Patch, but it might well be a peak down there, so if you're going past, just have a quick scan and see what's there. This one's the West Ledge at Round Patch, again a name someone's given it. And just as a side note, you hear these names out there, Square Patch, Round Patch, all that sort of thing, and I wonder how many people know how they're actually named. The majority of these things were named because whoever found the patch of reef looked across, say, might have been Stradbroke Island or Moreton Island in this case, and lined it up with some mark on the island against some mark on the mainland. And Square Patch, you can see the square patch on the mainland of something or other that looks square, and that's how it got its name. And again, Round Patch, I guess the same thing. You look at, line it up with some mark on Moreton, and you see this round patch on the mainland, and you know you're on the right line, if not at the right distance away from the island. So that's how they got their name anyway. Just a little bit of trivia. This is another one I got off the internet, and again very imaginatively named, northeast of South Passage Bar, which it more or less is, but it's not a very informative name. Just throwing it in here as a mark to go and have a look at if you're going past it, because this general area is a great fishing area, but not sure about any particular mark in this area being good. I know I've fished this area way back in the day. I don't have any GPS marks for this particular area, but it was a good fishing area. And here's another mark called Round Patch. As I said, good fishing area in this general area. Sound around, you'll find plenty of structure down there. See if you can find fish holding near the structure and drop your line down. One of those areas that, say, I generally drifted it back in the day. I haven't fished it much since I've had Wave Dancer. Plan to get out there again and have another look. But back in the day I used to drift this area. And of course back in the day I had the boys to do the anchor rope. They came out with me pretty regularly. But in 70 metres of water that's a long haul up with the anchor rope, so generally gave them a holiday and drifted it. This is a bathymetry shot of the circled area that we used to drift fish back in the day when I had Wave Dancer. You can see there's a lot of structure down there on the bottom and a lot of potential to hold fish. So even though the marks I've given you in this circled area aren't mine, they're picked up off the internet, they are genuine marks because I have fished this area in the past. I don't have a mark for it, but I do have the general area. You can sound around and you're sure to find structure, and if the fish are there you'll find them as well. And this is another wreck mark, and again all the same caveats apply to this one as I've given you for the previous wreck marks. It's probably a general area. I don't recall ever having seen anything that looks like a wreck on the sounder down there. Not that I've spent a lot of time scanning looking for wrecks in this general area. Generally looking for structure, but if you see a wreck you're going to know it. So just keep your eye open there, and while you're scanning around the area you're going to find structure to fish. Stop and fish that. And another one from the internet called South of Rock. I would guess that that's because it's on the south side of some large structure down on the bottom. At least that's what I'd hope. As I've said, there is plenty of structure around this area, so quite possibly this is on the southern side of a large piece of rock, and in any event it gives you a point to scan around. I'm sure you'll find some structure in the area, but whether or not there's fish on it, that's another matter. These two marks used to be pretty good fishing marks, but they're now in a green zone and therefore verboten. I've included them just to show you basically that there are still marks out there on the internet that are now in green zones, because they've put the green zones there after someone put these marks up, or perhaps they put the marks up after the green zone was there, not realising they were fishing in a green zone. Who knows? Either way, bear in mind that some marks are going to be in green zones moved or expanded, and new ones are created, so always check with your local authority that there are no green zones where you plan to fish. Otherwise it could be a very expensive fishing trip for you. Well, I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut the video off here. I did say at the beginning that it was likely to be a short video because I am extremely time poor this week. I didn't even get as many marks done as I thought I might have, but all that means is that I'm going to do the marks at a later date in another video. So we're not going to skip over them. It will just take longer to get them done. I expect I'm going to be busy for the next few weeks. So hopefully it'll settle down after that, and I'll get back to a normal sort of schedule and normal sort of video length. Until then, good fishing.